And I noticed that you did a video on how fasting affects high blood pressure. Can you give us a quick rundown on that concept?
Sure. So, scientists, the very few who have looked at it over the last century, knew for quite some time that just through little anecdotes, when they would do an experiment and fast someone, their blood pressure would drop. It's almost 100%. Every single person who has high blood pressure, their blood pressure drops when they fast. If you have normal blood pressure, it usually doesn't drop, it just stays. So, when you have high blood pressure and you fast long enough, most people, their blood pressure will drop until it reaches normal. So there was a study that was done, a couple of studies that were done about 20 years ago at the True North Health Center in Northern California by a doctor named Alan Goldhammer, who partnered up with T. Colin Campbell, who many of your listeners will know because he was the author of the famous China study. Um, and and they looked at 100 it was 180 some consecutive patients that walked in the door to True North and had high blood pressure. They didn't cherry pick; they just took everyone who had high blood pressure and saw what happened to them when they fasted. On average, these patients fasted 10 days. What they found, what they reported, was the largest ever drop in blood pressure reported by any therapy whatsoever in a peer-reviewed scientific journal. So the average drop in blood pressure was 37 systolic, that's the top number, over
Mm.
13 diastolic. That's well beyond what you can achieve with the best blood pressure medications. The people with the worst high blood pressure did the best. So those with stage 3 hypertension saw a drop in their systolic pressure, again, the top number, of 60 points, 6-0. So, I mean, this is just beyond incredible. If you listen to the American Heart Association, if you listen to the National Kidney Foundation here in America, and I'm sure it's true in other countries, they will tell you that there's no cure for high blood pressure. High blood pressure can be managed, but it cannot be cured. I question whether it's just coincidental that they're taking money from the pharmaceutical companies that manage high blood pressure. But setting that aside, the more important point is well, one other thing I should probably add to that. So scientists had long known that you, as I said, could reduce blood pressure, but as soon as they refed people, the blood pressure went right back up. So this little fasting, reducing high blood pressure thing was seen as kind of a parlor trick, right? It wasn't something that lasted. Well, what Goldhammer and Campbell came to, based in part on Campbell's research, was, well, what if we refeed these people an entirely plant-based diet? And Goldhammer's diet is a very minimally processed diet. You can turn your soybeans into tofu, and you can turn your almonds into almond milk, but you can't turn them into Twinkies or whatever, Oreos or something. So they refed them on a minimally processed plant diet and followed up with as many of them as they could. It's hard to track people after they leave the clinic, but they followed up with a third or more of them, and their blood pressure had not gone up after they had returned to eating again. So this is rather remarkable, and the sad thing about it was, as I say, the first of these studies was 20 years ago. Virtually no one knows about it. Walk into any doctor's office in virtually any country in the world, and you will hear that if you have high blood pressure, as in America, 50% of all adults do. By the time you hit your 70s, 3/4 of all adults do. I'm sure it's about the same, slightly less bad, but getting just as bad in Australia, New Zealand, Europe, you name it. Um,
Mm.
and um, and what you will hear is you will be on medications for the rest of your life. Well, you don't have to be. There is actually what seems to be a cure. Now, the one slight caveat to this, all right, is we don't have a randomized controlled trial. Those are extremely expensive to do. So this little, fasting clinic in Northern California hasn't done it. So I can't say with 100% lockstep certainty that this actually works. Maybe there was something weird about the people walking in the door at True North. That's a possibility. They weren't randomized. They were self-selectedly fasting. But I will tell you this: every single fasting doctor in every country in every era has had patient after patient after patient with high blood pressure, with the blood pressure dropping when they fast. So I think it's 99%.